Let's see what happens. Oh, there we go. Looks better. All right. Now we're live on YouTube.
Perfect. So while we wait for people to join, I think it'd be good to just, I guess, cover a little bit of what Headway is about, what these sessions are about. So um, Headway, we're a product team for hire. We help companies build new applications, validate new ideas, and discover new market opportunities. And so we work with startups, we work with corporate innovation teams, we work with, everyone from solo founders to large teams, and the process is kind of what's the same. And if you dig around our channel and see some other talks that we've given, that the product teams given, Ryan, Robert, and design as well, you'll notice that the process is really the same when you get to validating or invalidating an individual idea, but for companies just depends on, are they evaluating one idea or a portfolio of ideas and that sort of thing. So a lot of what we'll talk about today or questions can be applicable to new product creation for startups and also for corporate innovation teams. So yeah, and this feedback, this session is designed to really just be an open forum for your questions, and Jacob and I will chat a little bit, I'm sure, in between on different things where we help you figure out next steps, talk about some frameworks, tools, books, resources, things like that we think can help you on your journey as you're moving ahead, whether that's strategy, design, development, marketing, all those things. So I guess introduction for myself. So I'm partner and CEO at Headway, and I'll pass it to Jacob.
Hey, everybody. I'm here in Green Bay. My name's Jacob Miller. I'm the marketing and brand manager at Headway, and I help with all the live stream events here that we do. So we do obviously this open office hours every Wednesday, and then we have 3 other kind of rotations every month of design, development, and then now we're doing exploring products. So it's kind of diving into product strategy and customer research with Ryan and Robert, which is super cool, which will also be a podcast. So we're excited to kind of turn it into like a multimedia type experience. But yeah, so I don't know, my background's been in marketing in a bunch of different ways, photography and video production and animation, and then kind of got a lot of experience with copywriting and even like building some WordPress websites for clients over the years and stuff. And now I've been at Headway for about 3.5 years, and helping Headway grow, and also just consulting with clients along the way as needed. So it's been a fun journey also here on YouTube, growing our channel. And so I'm actually kind of like diving into that a little bit on the side, doing some consulting with other folks. It's kind of cool to see the potential that some other channels have. So yeah, so that's me.
Awesome. So I don't think we have any immediate questions that came in yet. So I don't know, Jacob, if you had some things you wanted to chat through. Otherwise, we could talk a little bit about kind of what's new in the industry. I think there's a lot of always new products that launch. We talk potentially while we're waiting, like looking at new things that are available out on Product Hunt and out on some other resources. I don't know if you had
Yeah.
anything specific.
No, I was just kind of seeing what was new today. But then you also mentioned that Drizly, what is it called? Drizly got
Drizly, yeah.
acquired.
Yeah, so some friends of ours, we worked at a client. We're also doing some work with Drizly, and they just got acquired by Uber to integrate with their Uber Eats platform. I didn't know how kind of widespread and large they were, but they disclosed the amount at 1.1 billion. So they officially reached unicorn status, as the industry is calling startups over 1 billion. So they do alcohol delivery, and also earlier this year moved into cannabis delivery as well. So obviously depends on the compliance and law in your state, whether or not it's available, but sounds like a good grab for Uber Eats to Uber Munchies and Uber Drinks. I don't know what they're going to call it, or how, if they're going to rebrand it at all, if it's going to be part of Uber Eats proper, but
Yeah.
that was some cool movement.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because you were mentioning that some states don't allow alcohol delivery. So it'll be interesting to see like what kind of like the market cap is like hey, because only so many states, like this is the limited potential of it. But obviously, um, they'll still make revenue, but it's like until states allow it, like there's only so much money they can make, which is interesting. So
Right.
yeah, yeah, I was like looking at some other ones here. I've just been seeing a ton of like removal, like products, like removing backgrounds from images, just more like in bulk. Like there's this removal AI, so it's an API for bulk image removal. Um, let's see, there's this. I just also there's been a lot of like calendar and meeting scheduling apps have been happening. Um, manage your time, not your calendar. It's called Daybridge. Yeah, like I think also like SavvyCal just launched. They've been around for a bit, but they just did a big push, and they're like a competitor to Calendly basically. And so it's kind of interesting to see like the scheduling, like calendar management, like industry. Like I feel like they're finally like reaching like a weird critical mass in a way because I feel like obviously there's Gmail and Google Calendar and like Apple and all that stuff. Um, but now you're starting to see like some of the pain points finally getting solved instead of people just dealing with, scheduling through Gmail or scheduling through Apple Mail or whatever.
Right. And they're
Yeah.
usually still using it, which is interesting. Like you see,
Hmm.
I think, with platforms and operating systems like Apple, you see them start to cannibalize ideas like this that are utilities. So I'd be curious to see how Gmail responds since they now have those paid solutions where really like somebody's integrating their calendar UI for them to book. And I'll just pull this up. Or if you want to pull up SavvyCal,
Oh yeah, for sure.
just for people to see. But essentially, like it's still a bridge into your Google Calendar. And so, how long until Google takes advantage of this opportunity where they just make it native? And I don't
For
know
sure.
any of the IP or background on the moat that some of these startups might have, but one of the risks is, hey, Apple Calendar and G Suite, um, Google Suite for companies is paid. Like how often, how long before they actually just integrate directly and allow you to set up different calendar request links? Like they already
Hmm.
own the rest of the technology and they own the calendar software and the UI and everything. So it's like almost one feature into it. That'd be in
Yeah.
my mind as I think through, hey, what's the risk to starting something like this? But
Yeah.
interesting to see how much it's grown, and I'm assuming because of the multitude of different factors, right? Like people
Hmm.
still doing at home schooling, people doing, working from home more, calendar is more important versus you being, at the office and someone just saying, hey, you have a quick second, right? Like
Hmm.
less organic to get more time with folks.
I think this is interesting too, just like some of the personalization. Because sometimes when people get an invite, like from a Calendly or whatever other tool, it's like the title of the invite's like super wonky, and you're like, wait, what is this for? Like you just kind of, yeah, I think they just kind of hit on like all the gaps that like Calendly had, and just kind of like made it just a little bit better. Um,
Yeah, and Calendly recently had a big, I forget if they had a big raise.
oh, this is pretty cool too. Embed right on your website. I don't know if
Yeah,
Calendly.
Calendly. Yeah, I don't think they have that. They just did a big raise. They raised 350 million. That was announced. Yeah, I thought it was recent. That was announced on Monday. So they raised a Series B of 350 million in financing um, to really attack this. And for Calendly, it's
Hmm.
their valuation's at more than 3 billion now, based on
Hmm.
the new raise, which is interesting.
Yeah. It's funny. So I actually left feedback on this landing page because Corey, I'm pretty sure Corey Haynes has been helping them out. Um, so it's just kind of funny to see like how it's evolved, um, just over time and getting feedback on it. But it is interesting that like this whole thing is like trying to find a time like can be just like an awkward like, well, I'm available now, but you're not, hey, I'm available these times, it's not. And then like trying to share your calendar, like I can only imagine people were screenshotting their week and like just to see, hey, find a time in here what works for you versus like a bunch of messages back and forth.
Yep. And
Like it's just like how do you yeah. Uh,
and I think Calendly has some of those where like you'll see those one-click links in someone's email to book that time with them.
yeah.
I don't think HubSpot scheduling has that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that HubSpot doesn't have that quite yet, but who knows? I mean, yeah.
Sounds good. So if you have any questions, Jacob and I are just kind of exploring some of the new raises and new activity in startups, over the
Hmm.
week. If you have questions, drop them in YouTube via your comments or in the pinned comment above, in the top of the chat. You can hop in here and use your audio. It'll be no video, so no pressure to turn that on. Be able to ask your question and make sure that it's clear.
I'm actually gonna share, let's see, where was that other window I had up for Daybridge? I'm gonna go to the Daybridge website. I just want to take a look at it and just see like how they're kind of like what they actually do. And see if we can figure out what they like, why it's better, or why it's different than what you're currently doing, like with your calendar. They raised a bunch of money, so that's at the top. I don't know. That's not helpful to me. Like when I see stuff like that, like oh, it does make me feel good that they got funding, but like, does it solve something? Does it solve my problem? Like, or do I have a problem? That's the thing. Like, oh, it's just another calendar tool. Like, do I
Right.
even need this? And then manage your time, not your calendar. Well, so is it a calendar or is it a task priority tool? I think that's interesting. Daybridge is a calendar built for people, not companies. Okay. Join our beta program to try it first. I still don't know what it does. That's like the one thing I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, like what it actually does. Like I'm seeing the picture.
Yeah.
Why is
I
it any
mean,
different? I don't know.
just looking at, the bottom graphic, like British Airways, um, the liner, LNE, I don't know if that's a rail. It seems like they're bringing events and also like things from your Google. Like Google does this a lot. If you book a flight for somebody somewhere, it'll like add that to your calendar and you can, confirm it or remove it if you want. But
Mm-hmm.
like really bringing things into a visual space. So to me, it looks kind of similar to what Google Calendar already does.
Mm-hmm.
But this maybe brings in um, more graphical elements to show you. So right now, like UI, the top thing when you said, "Hey, I'm not sure if this is relevant," hey, we raised 750. I think like being an early adopter of so many tools, the question like I find myself asking is like, should I even waste my time signing up for this? Like, is
Mm.
this going to be around? You know what I mean? Like, are they going to be
Yeah.
around in a couple months? Should I, you know what I mean? Like, from a time investment standpoint, to get spun up on this and get started, if you were like,
Mm-hmm.
are they going to be around? It's kind of the question. I think that depending on how early you are, that could kind of lend light to, oh, they
Yeah.
have some runway, they're going to be around, like they're actively working through this and have some
Mm-hmm.
growth goals. So that kind of lends to some investment. But
Yeah, because I mean, I understand your point with that. I guess like early users are usually probably more tech savvy. They're probably more, they're usually like in the startup world, like especially if you're on Product Hunt, you're just more, into the startup industry, um, in that culture. But I think like most people like don't care like about that. Like if they see a company, they just assume that oh, it's a new company that can help me. They're not probably even thinking about is this company going to be around. They're just like, oh, this seems interesting. Like a common person usually doesn't think about like
yeah,
the longevity of a company. They're like, they just assume that it will survive, right? Like they probably
right.
don't think about like, oh, what are the profit margins of this company? Like, is it even viable? Like they just don't. That doesn't cross their mind at all. They're just like trying to live their day and make their life a little better. Um,
Yeah, it could also be
so
a call
yeah.
for if an investor comes from Product Hunt and sees that, like, oh, I wonder if they're raising another round,
True.
right? Like
Yep.
if they're in this
True.
space, like kind
Yep.
of bring things top of mind. So goals
Yeah.
matter, I think, as you're designing your landing page for sure, who you're
Sure. Yeah.
speaking to. But
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that does make sense. Yeah. Hey, we race around just to get like early traction with new investment in the future. Um, room to stretch out. It doesn't. Interesting. I don't really know what that means, but I kind of, I don't know. Like I feel like I'm having a hard time like understanding the value of this
yeah,
section.
well, it says mix events, tasks, and notes together in the same place.
But that's if someone decides to read that last line.
Yep.
That's kind of where I'm going. I'm like, okay, well, what does this even mean? Like, it's not clear enough for me. Um, gets to know you. Um, what if it was like a personalized experience? Because this doesn't. It's kind of. I kind of understand the sentiment, but I feel like it could be worded better. Tools to plan your time.
Yeah, this is kind of
Hmm.
helpful just to see the different types of things that'll come on your calendar.
Hmm. I don't know if I like the idea of this. Fill up your timeline. Kind of makes me like, I don't really want to have a fully packed calendar. I mean, maybe some people do, they want it to a T, but it scrolls infinitely in both directions. Oh boy. Hmm. Smart cards. Smart cards live in your time and they put helpful, relevant information. Hmm.
Yeah, so kind of going a step further on current invites. We have a question here
Okay.
from Kirill. Hopefully, I'm not saying your name too incorrectly. Apologize if I am. So the question is, hi guys, I've been working in a small company for almost 2 years. I've started as a junior dev. I recently noticed that I got bored with tasks and I do not learn new things. Is this normal? I think for a lot of companies, it probably, it probably is normal if you don't take learning as kind of part of the job. Like if you think of it as separate, like do the work you have today and then kind of think about learning in your off hours. I think can be normal. Like it's easy to get into routine for sure. And there's, one thing that I like to think about is like there's seasons of life where you really want to learn a ton and grow, professionally, grow personally. And then there's seasons where you're just, you know, you're okay sustaining and maintaining kind of what you're working on. And so um,
Hmm.
I'd say it's fairly normal. I think you kind of have to break your own, define your own new normal and what makes sense for you. On our teams, just to speak to it, we have time that's carved out every week to be able to learn, and sometimes that's, meetings like learning how we communicate better together. That's meetings with Zach, who's our head of people, going through like Dare to Lead and things like that, where we're not only craft focused, but also kind of how we work as people. So I think, whether that's part of your job or not, depending on where you're working, trying to set aside time every week so that you can learn new things. I think learning is addictive, meaning like as you learn more, like what you don't know, right? The more you know, the more you don't. So being able to kind of create that as a habit of learning, whether that's reading new things or trying out new technologies or things like that, just to stay fresh, would be something that would help you kind of define a new normal. I don't know, Jacob, if you have any specific
Hmm.
thoughts there, but like being intentional about learning is really the kind of key takeaway from me.
Yeah. So there's a couple things I was thinking about. The first thing is that like probably for the last 10 years, because I'll be 33, but the last 10 years, basically once I was done with school, like I think the first like 5 to 8 years out of school, I just never felt like I was good. Like I knew like where I wanted to go and all that stuff. You would see things on the internet, like other people maybe even younger than you doing really well or doing super cool stuff, sharing cool, like maybe development projects. Or for me, I would see like these marketing case studies of like I took this product and I did this landing page, I did this campaign, and we got 1 million emails on this campaign in 90 days or whatever. You see all these cool things, and you just feel like you're not good enough because you're just like constantly just looking at like people that are succeeding, which is good to learn from for sure. But I think it's also you have to just be more realistic with yourself and what you want out of your life too. And I think being really clear with like, hey, what do I want to do in 1 year? In 1 year, I want to be able to say I can do this, this, and this, or I've done this, this, and this. And I think just like having like, like a 30-day, 90-day goal to help you get to that 1 year goal. Like, hey, I'm going to do this over the next 30 days. I'm going to do this over the next 90 days. Um, to then say, hey, I don't feel like a junior dev anymore, or I don't feel like a novice marketer anymore. Like I know I'm good at this thing, or like whether it's like landing that job, like maybe that's the goal. Like I want to land a job as this just not a junior dev, whatever that may be, a senior dev or whatever. Like start asking around, like ask senior devs, even if they're not, where you work. Maybe there's some other folks on Twitter that you can connect with. Um, and just ask them like, hey, I'm looking to become a senior dev. Can you help me on my journey? Like that, just like ask people that you admire or ask people that you think might be able to help you. Um, and that's kind of what I did. I just like tapped on the shoulder. I like call it tapping on the shoulders of giants. Like you just ask people that you admire for a little bit of help or for feedback or thoughts on something. And you'd be surprised how many people will actually be like, oh yeah, sure, I can give you, let's hop on a call. I can give you 30 minutes of my time. Because someone probably did that for them at one point. So like yeah, I give most of my credit to other people that I've surrounded myself with, whether it was locally or digitally, um, to just help me like, hey, I want to do this or do things like that or become this kind of person. Yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think from like if you look on Twitter or LinkedIn, even people are doing like more and more office hours, like offering up, hey, just like you said, people helped me. I want to help give back and tell more about my journey. I think the thing when you set goals, kind of building upon that is like figuring out like how to be accountable, and then like motivation is kind of you have to take it internally. But I find like I feed off of energy of people a lot, and so if I can talk about something and like get it out there with somebody, I can feel more energized about it versus if I'm just kind of in my own head or in my own space, saying something and oh, I'm going to do this and not actually follow through. So I think like depending on what you're struggling with, if it's just kind of feeling like the monotony of the work you're doing is just the same, like trying to climb at work and ask for more responsibility and ask for more opportunities to learn, and be kind of clear with those that you're working with that you want to climb and you want to be able to grow in your career, and you're open to more, and like you're willing to take that challenge on, or kind of outside, as Jacob mentioned, like network with people, like be inspired by their stories and how they went from where you are to kind of where they are as a senior dev, as a tech lead, or whatever the case is, and then figure out like, hey, can I get some ideas from these people on what worked for them, and maybe figure out how to apply and hone that to your own life and your own journey. Hopefully that was helpful. Kirill, if you have more questions, or questions specifically for our dev leads or senior devs or people on our team, like feel free to shoot an email over to Ahoya at Headway, and we'll connect you with the right folks to chat. But good luck on your journey, and hopefully that was helpful.
All right. Actually, I was kind of curious. So I just want to share a tool that we've actually been using at Headway, um, and just kind of share some thoughts on it. So there's this feedback tool we've been using called Wynter. It used to be called what was it called? Copy testing?
Copy testing, yeah.
Yeah, and then they changed it to Wynter. So uh, it's funny because I haven't been on their landing page in a while, but I like what the message that they have here, make them want it. Messaging optimization platform for B2B. Oh, you know what? I wonder if if they split. Because before it didn't say B2B. It was like basically anybody, but maybe they're doubling down on B2B. Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we actually started using them for some landing pages on our site, and it's been helpful, like really helpful actually. Like I think it's a good like first pass because it's like around 400, $500 to get it in front of 20 people that are like in your target audience, to give like good relevant feedback on each section of your landing page. Um, and it's just been, I don't know, really good. The one thing that we have experienced is like if we would make any changes to a landing page and then send it again for retesting, there were people that would say, "Oh, I think I've seen this before," or "Oh, I think I remember this company from a different landing page," or something like that. So you do get a little bit of like repetition, and like bias could start forming with that. Um, but honestly, if you're doing like a brand new fresh landing page, I think it's still a good, like, very affordable way to just get quick feedback, get people outside of your company bubble to look at it, or people that aren't marketers to look at it, and just really uh, give you some honest stuff. Like, I don't know what this, they'll say, I don't know what this means. Not really sure what they're trying to say here. This feels, I don't, or they'll say, I don't really care about this. Like, they're pretty straightforward. It's pretty good stuff. And it looks like you can
Yeah.
see sample reports, which I think is cool. Oh, okay, interesting. So they have a bunch of different consumer panel, highlight tests, full page tests. Yeah, so like basically they have the website laid out, and then you can go through each section that they wanted highlights on. They kind of give you like these little scores too, but like the feedback on the right's pretty cool. Some of the feedback can be whatever, but there's like definitely gems that shine through. Like, oh, this is exactly like what we need to improve this. Kind of interesting stuff.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is like, so we're using this as a way to really kind of run our own process that we do with clients and like figure out how our messaging's on or off. And so partnered with um, using Wynter on kind of some first passes is doing actual user interviews and um, tests in person so we can dig deeper into some of the insights that are here. So I think it's super, like you could offer the best widget, but if you don't talk about it in a way that's
Mm-hmm.
positioned and like at an angle that makes sense to the people you're serving, like no one's going to use it. And I think that happens a lot where the product delivers great, but it doesn't, the messaging's not great. And so your conversion rates suffer, probably even click-through rates if you're doing ads suffer from lack of clarity. All of those things that could be improved by better copy. There's actually a good meetup we were in last week as a marketing team, the Jobs to Be Done meetup, that we can probably send out the recording to. But basically, like
Oh yeah.
prioritizing first retention. So rather than saying like, "Hey, is the offer we have compelling?" It's like, "Hey, the first 5-second test." Um, can somebody retain it and repeat it back to us? Like whether or not the value props for them is a different test. That's like conversions, and you can do that through customer interviews. But from a retention standpoint, like can you actually craft something that people can understand and repeat back to you after only seeing it for 5 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so super interesting approach there, and they used it with if I'm remembering, startups of all sizes, and it was one of the partners that worked alongside 500 startups to help really hone their copy and really think about how do we make big leaps quickly. And so in 15 to 20 minutes, be able to create new adjustments, a copy, get new feedback, think about how they might change and reposition the hierarchy of their offer and the content and that sort of thing to one, improve retention, and then two, start working on whether or not the message is right.
Trying to find a recording from that. Is that just on the 11FS YouTube channel?
I have, I think I sent over a link to the in Slack here. Let me dig it up.
Yeah, I loved how he talked about the 15-minute like validation.
Here it is.
You shouldn't spend more than 15 minutes on your landing page before you get
Yeah,
in front of people. I thought that was like super powerful. Um, 'Cause it's all about
yeah,
effectiveness, not necessarily like, because you can get so caught up in like making it pretty or making it look cool. Um, but if it's not clear, it won't work.
yeah, absolutely. I just dropped that link into the YouTube.
Awesome. Oh, I'm not seeing it on YouTube. Or am I in the wrong thing?
I'll send it to you and you can repost it if you don't see
Got
it.
it. Yeah. There we go. Awesome. All right. Well, if anyone has any questions, that's what we're here for. Um, Otherwise, I think we can. I'm gonna hop back on the product hunt and see what else we can find on here. Anything that seems kind of interesting. Oh, this is kind of an interesting topic. Um, because I've seen a couple other platforms doing it, but the idea of internal podcasts for your team. So like obviously like there's all these new podcasting tools for people to make podcasts for um, obviously public accessibility, but now there's like I'm seeing this trend of these like internal ones. Here I can go to Chrome here. But I think this is really interesting because I think communication's getting more and more important, and like it's hard, asynchronous communication too. So I think use audio stories to align and engage your employees. Like that's a pretty powerful statement. Um, on the Spokn app, your employees can learn company updates and develop their skills, all in short async audio. Wow, that's exactly what I would be looking for if I wanted that. Um, Seems pretty cool because it's like mobile friendly. Looks like there's engagement. It looks like pretty cool. Seems pretty easy to understand how it would work. Um, Not sure how this discover and playlist thing it goes, unless they have like, hey team, there's a playlist called this. Go check it out this week. It might be something like that, or over the next month, check out this playlist each week. So that's kind of cool. Um, the most forward-thinking companies use Spokn. So I only know of these two companies. But I guess
Yeah.
if they're early adopters are more tech driven. I mean, I would imagine that somebody that wants to do this in their company is probably more tech driven and forward thinking, like a younger company probably. Um, larger like a larger corporation that's been around for 100 years might be a little more uh,
It's funny how we
less
have this
likely. Yeah,
asynchronous, like we just talked about scheduling,
yeah,
no
yeah,
scheduling nightmare. So you have like
yeah.
anti, like avoid this
That should be the
problem
number
versus
one
solve
thing.
it.
I feel like these two things, no Zoom fatigue and asynchronous, should be like well, there's validation, but I would just be like right away. So like I would even say remote culture is all about communication. It's better with short. I would just put these first. Like I don't know. I feel like that's the two pain. Like these are benefits and these are pains. So I feel like if make it resonate even further. I don't know. That's how I feel about these two. I'm like everybody talks about Zoom fatigue and everybody talks about scheduling because their calendars are fuller because everyone's on calls all the time now versus like in-person meetings or to just like turn around in your office and talk to somebody that's like 6 feet away. Um,
Yeah, it's
but
interesting
yeah,
looking at this because we talked about this, Jacob, as well for
yeah,
like at
yeah,
Headway, like,
yeah.
how do we create something, that isn't just a all hands or like a
hmm
call for people and kind of promote some of the stuff that our teams are working on in the weeds. So
The one thing I will say with this headline, create internal company podcasts. Like, I don't know if that's like the goal. Like, this is the goal. So I wonder if it's like align and inspire your team with like I would almost flip that around. Like I almost feel like this is like what you really want. Like an internal company podcast. I mean, unless that's like what they say they want. Like, oh, we want to make an internal podcast, but I don't think everybody thinks that way. I think more people are like, we need a better way to align and inspire our team every week, right? So I feel like
right.
that could get flipped. I feel like the focus is a little weird on here. I also this I don't know if it's just me, but I'm not a huge fan of this. Like the way this is underlined, it's a little hard to read because it's like half split color. I don't know. I feel like it'd be easier to read if it didn't have as much of a splotch. Gets a little busy. But I like these examples. CEO weekly recap. Okay, that's cool. Celebrate big wins. Nice. Department updates. Got it. Company history and value. So you could have. So you could even use it for like onboarding. Hey,
Yeah.
I guess the one thing that could be weird though is I'm assuming there's a web. Is there a web app or is it all mobile? I guess those are questions you would find out as you look into it. Um,
Yeah, looks like available. Well, you could sign
so
in
it's
here. I wonder what if that's an admin panel or something up
yeah,
top.
yeah, yeah. I see that. Yeah, I'm wondering. The one thing though with onboarding is like it would be a little annoying to like watch a bunch of onboarding videos on your phone.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe it's just more like values and stuff. Okay. Exec intros for on. Okay. Oh, okay. I could see that where it's like more simple. Highlight diverse voices. CEO weekly recap goes back. Okay. Recordings a breeze. That's a good. It's good. Push notifications. See, like this is benefit and feature, but then this is like feature.
Straight feature.
Yeah, which is interesting. Push notifications like uh yeah, like you could reword that in a better way. Like like notify your employees easily notify your employees about updates or something, right? Something like that. Tap extra audios from the experts. Hmm. Oh, so they have they have content that's already been created that that your team can access. It looks
Interesting.
that's what I'm thinking.
That's a
Yeah.
different. That's a to me that's a different product, right?
Yeah.
One of them's like promote what you're doing. The other one's like help your team learn new things.
But I mean, if you're you have a team of 20 people or 50 or 100 people, but you're all like, "Hey, our whole team's going to go through this program through the Kellogg Foundation or whatever." Um, and like or through Inc or with maybe there's like some program that they want to go through together. This would be a good way to just talk about it. We're like, hey, this week we're going to go through this part of the program. I went through it last week, and here's what I learned. I really hope that you get what I got out of it, right? It's like almost like you could do that.
Yeah, it's almost like a secondary offering. Like,
It
because
is,
if you
yeah.
think about the rest of the landing page, like if your goal was to find a learning platform and you search that, you'd probably find like Purell site, you'd probably find Lattice, you'd probably find some other companies. You know what I mean? Learning ahead of this.
Hmm.
So I think could you compete with somebody who's only looking to learn through
Yeah.
this one blurb on this homepage? And probably not.
So this is their final like CTA or final value declaration, and it's a improve internal communication and upskill your people
Yeah, and
all in the same app.
that's interesting because it's the
They don't
only
say that up top.
no
Yeah. I guess a line could be an assumption if you're like
develop their
a
skills. But yeah,
I get,
we didn't really you don't really see that until you get to the bottom of the landing page where it says, "Hey, actually, we're gonna bring outside perspective for you."
hmm All in all, though, this is a good landing page. Like I was like, look
Yeah,
at this. I'm like, oh, if I wanted to do some with my organization, like I would give it a try. Like it'd be like, oh, let's try it this for the next 6 months and see how we feel about it. Um, what's this sign-in process like? Well, pretty easy. And then I bet if like you hop in and then and if you don't start using it, then oh, you can't even register here. This is just sign in. Oh, get started. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong button. Seeing is believing. Okay, interesting. They're collecting job title information because then they know who to talk to for sales probably. Request a demo. Yep. Okay. Yeah, so you can't really start using it until they have to meet with you, make sure it's a good fit probably. Hmm. I think it's pretty cool. There were some other ones too. It's like let's see, like internal company podcast. See if there's any other tools that come up. Here we go. Castos, was that one that I saw, I think? Oh my gosh, this is not a great website. Huh. Like I'm actually really curious about this process. Like, hey, I want to have a podcast for my company. How do I find that? Like, where do I go?
Yeah,
Like
I think
to find that?
it's kind of interesting because it's like, as I think about it, when I went to, hey, we should do an internal podcast and have like different people on every
Yeah,
week and like send it out. I was just thinking like the normal podcast stuff we do,
yeah,
not really like, or maybe like the normal podcast stuff we do plus drop an embed for the audio into Notion, and then
yeah,
people could comment and add questions and stuff like that. I didn't
yeah.
really go like, oh, we need an app to do this.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, we can figure out how to do this. Like, just so interesting.
Yeah.
Spokn. Yeah, I'm just curious if there's anything else on here. What if I do company? Oh, it's gonna show me like. See, that doesn't even show up. Like, in product time, like, how would you even find that one? It's just crazy. Yeah, there was a couple tools I remember finding a few months ago when you asked about it, and I was like, I found a bunch of them, and now I can't find them. So I'm trying to even remember how I found them. Oh, I know. I bet I shared them on the Swipe Files site. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, we're here to answer them. If you're just listening to us talk about other products, that's totally cool too. But anything about design, development, product strategy, validating your idea, growing a team, whatever it may be, um, ask away. Oh, I found it.
What was it?
There's two of them. So there's messy.fm, and then there was Wooshka, which Wooshka I think is a bigger, and it's so funny because it's got uh, Austin's picture on the homepage like right away. Um, yeah, so here's Wooshka, private podcast for your business. I will say that the messaging from the other one is better. It's from Spokn.
Yeah.
And then
One of the
there's just some.
interesting things is to see. So I don't think we talked about it on here, but I got accepted into the podcaster cohort for On Deck podcasters, and that gets started this Saturday. So it'd be interesting to see how many other people are starting internal podcasts and external podcasts and things like that. I guess this is a good time to plug the podcast. We just had a new episode go live this week with Michael Seidel from Aurora Healthcare, or Advocate Aurora Healthcare, which was good. We talked a lot about healthcare innovation during COVID, and we talked on this call a little bit about early adopters, but how that curve's been squished. They had originally, I guess one of the highlightables is they had originally planned on or set a goal for 90,000 cases through telehealth through their new platform and app, and they ended up doing close to 1 million by the end of the year. So they 10x'd it. And we talk about timing and environmental factors being a big issue for why startups succeed or fail. expectations, like all of those things are kind of at play recently. And if you're really in tune with your customers, like Advocate Aurora Health is, like there's a big opportunity for you to innovate quickly, and be able to meet customers' expectations and exceed them, hopefully. But if you're kind of resting on your laurels as a product team, and your product does what it does, and you're not really looking for new ways to serve customers, um, that's where you run into issues with things like this. And obviously no one saw COVID coming, but always good to be able to um, keep your ear to the ground and uh, continually talk with customers to stay relevant. It's not really what they ask, right? But more of the needs that they have and the changing expectations that are important.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've been kind of just sharing the screen, and I've dropped a link to that episode in the chat here on YouTube. So, um, yeah, I just think it's so. I always see Austin's photo showing up everywhere. It's like Sam's hands showing up from Unsplash everywhere. Um,
Yeah, I feel like we should close out with that as like a hand clap. Do you want to pull it up on Unsplash?
yeah, sure.
So we had a shoot in our office. Was it for Team Week? I think it was for Team Week, in 2018, the summer of 2018.
Yeah,
And you can see how many we're in the 1,000 most seen contributors. This
yeah,
hand, these and the other hands are like so popular, like 48 million. We have a channel at Headway called Sam's Hands that we, every time we see it, we just share a new thing. And the most remarkable thing
Wait, we
is
do have a
that,
channel for that?
yeah, you're not in it, I guess.
No. What the heck?
We have a channel called Sam's Hands. And every time there's a new photo we see, there was one, like somebody photoshopped a laptop stand into here. Somebody, everyone's changing what's on the screen and photoshopping that. So it's super interesting to, I can't believe you're not in the channel.
Yeah, Sam's. I don't see it.
Is it private? No.
I don't. I'm not seeing it in search. Huh. Well, if you find it, invite me.
I just added you.
Okay. Yeah, because there's so many times. Uh, it's so funny. Oh,
Yeah,
there's not that much communication in here.
I think a lot of them go in wins too,
Yeah.
ultimately.
It's so funny. Yeah, it's crazy to think like just the views in
And
the
the other
last
one,
30
the
days
the
all
other top
time.
down one to the right there, yeah.
There's Billy, and there's one with Billy's hands. There's an audience one.
What are the
But
top
yeah.
features? Like if you
So
click on Trello, like where does that go? Oh, it just goes
oh,
to
it
the
just goes
site.
to Trello, yeah. But yeah, so like these now all have integrations like Figma and
Oh yeah, yeah.
Squarespace. So the people are pulling them from that library through the API, which is crazy. Um, but yeah, here we go. Here's like number one. I mean, it's definitely by a long shot. Sam's just got the two top ones. But yeah, it's just so funny. Yeah, we'll upload more at some point. Yeah, it's so interesting. Techstars is a pretty big deal to have in here, I think. Comcast, interesting. I feel like still like this is a way better message than these other ones. Like this one's good. This feels like more corporate, just because it's got like Toyota and stuff. Podcast privacy, manage it, easy for employees, track engagement. Like these are, it's like they want to see the data. It's like built right here, built for enterprise. It's like
Yeah,
right away.
SSO UAC API.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
It's totally like corporate lingo versus this is more like, hey, we just want to have better engagement and communication and grow our culture. Like startups don't think about this stuff probably as much unless they're in the enterprise world. Um, but oh, interesting. So you can still subscribe because I know I've subscribed to like private podcasts before on iTunes. So it's interesting to getting access to that. So it's nice because you can still use like the platform you want. versus like a tool. So that's the one thing with this is like it's easy
Yeah.
for employees use what they already use versus like this, like you have to get a tool, like have them download this tool, learn how to use it. Not that it looks that hard to use, but just kind of interesting. All right, so I guess we can kind of close it up here. So we have some events coming up. Um, so next week on February 11th, we have React Native React navigation with TypeScript. So Jess, a developer here at Headway, will be going through just getting a greater understanding of how nested navigation in TypeScript works, and just the basics of maintaining consistent navigation with a project. So you can find that on our website at headway.io and head to events. And then we also have an event coming up the week after that, all about like going from idea to venture launch, prototypes and feedback loops. So we're going to go through a case study with a client called Ditto that we basically went from idea to validation to like building a product, and to see the entire process that we used. That's also on our events page. And then we also have this fun assessment that we launched. So if you're looking to get some kind of like some short feedback on your product strategy, you can go to this assessment, and I can drop that in YouTube here. And we offer some free resources based on your score, and then also you can schedule a free call with Andrew to see like how you can improve your strategy so you can increase your chances for success. So yeah, I think that's it for today. I don't know if there's anything else you want to share before we wrap things up, Andrew.
Yeah, I don't think so. Just thanks for the question again, Kirill, and hopefully that was helpful. Yeah, we'll be back next week. That's about
Same
it.
time, same YouTube channel,
Same place.
same place. All right.
All
Take
right.
care, everybody.